Thank you so much for coming today. Have you all enjoyed the Autism Show so far? Oh, we can do better than that. Have you enjoyed the Autism Show so far? Better! Yes, that's what we go. I know it's a Saturday afternoon, but I know everyone's a bit bored. But well, hey, we got through it. We got through it. Now, I do apologise if my voice is a little bit hoarse today, but I've got an excuse. I went to see Ed Sheeran last night at Wembley, and he was encouraging us, like the audience, to say, shout louder until you go hoarse. And I'm like, Ed, don't torture me, please. You've tortured me once before, but we managed to get there. We managed to survive. Anyway, so let me introduce myself. My name is Seth Francis, and I am an autistic and epileptic content creator. I was diagnosed with autism when I was 2.5, and I've been running my YouTube channel when I was in 2015, and I've been going on ever since, really. I could explain more about myself, but this talk today is about my journey through employment, so I'm going into a lot of detail with that, but hopefully I won't bore you too much. So yes, and also I forgot to mention I am a podcaster and a historian as well. So if you want to have any questions at the end of the talk, please come free to say hello and all that at the end, but I will explain it again. But without any ado, let's get into the talk. So, what do you do for work? That's a really common question, isn't it? How many of you have heard that question before? We got a few hands up there. I love this side. Got most more hands up. Well done. Thank you. You're doing great, and you lot are lovely as well. But it is a very common question because that's what I'm going to be doing today. I'm going to be talking about employment, and this question has come up quite often because it is something that I really had to go through at a very difficult time in my life. And from where I was up until now, I had a 5-year journey for what I went through all the way up to now. And I was going to show a video presentation, but when I did the London one, it didn't really work, so I decided to skip that. But basically, if you want to go and check it out, the video is called Could You Stand the Rejection? And it is on the National Autistic Society's website and YouTube channel, which I highly recommend watching if you want to know some information about employment in that short video. But with that being said, I will go on to the figures now, and it has come up a lot in many talks because I know employment is the big common talk in the Birmingham show today. But according to this, and if you haven't been to the other talks, this is what the percentage was now, because this is from the ONS, the Office of National Statistics, and according to them, it's now that 29% of autistic adults are in employment, while 71% aren't employed, and in total, that's with the employment category, this is 3 out of 10 autistic adults are in employment. 3 out of 10. It doesn't sound much, does it? So yeah, I can see a few shake heads there, and other faces like, were you talking about Seth? But it is a really, really shocking number, and I am so surprised it's shocked. But it has risen over the years because it used to be 16% before the pandemic, then it jumped up into 22%, but it's still rising, but we still have a very long way to go. But with that being said, I'm going to explain a few points about why this keeps happening and why should you employ an autistic adult. So in this slide, I'm going to be talking about equality, diversity, disclosure, and inclusion. So employers who are open to a diverse and inclusive workforce is great. Now, I am familiar in that working environment, and I always have been for such a long time, and it makes me feel comfortable knowing whether an employee is comfortable with me. And for those who are open, that is great. I hugely appreciate that. And then also in this next point, in interviews, I do find it difficult to decide whether or not a future employer may be offering a job. So in order to do that, I always put making reasonable adjustments in good time makes me feel confident. So if anyone asks, what can we do to readjust you in the interview? Can we make any changes? Then that will be fantastic for someone. Coaching and asking for what adjustments can we make to help you. Again, like I said in the question, at the second point is quite helpful. And coaching is something that I have been through, but it's been really, really good because I have had coaching on how to write a CV and also how to dress appropriately. But even though it's the Autism Show, I don't look very professional. I try to, but nah, I didn't really work it out, sorry. But it's just when you find those things, doing some things with tasks is easy, but what makes it more difficult is the stress of it all. And an interview or coaching or preparing for anything can be very, very stressful. So that is why it is so important to explain the process prior to the interview. So this is always best to keep things on hand. And the questions were, who will be interviewing me? So in other words, which person is interviewing you? Is it a CEO? Is it a manager? Is it like a different thing? Set a time and make sure the interview starts on time. I cannot stress this enough because I know that autistic adults like being very punctual, and anything that's over time can cause a meltdown, and I know a few people who had experience with that as well. And then offer other opinions, so having, as an example, having the interview online rather than face-to-face, so that's why Zoom and Microsoft Teams is extremely helpful. Send questions and answers in written format, either on pen and paper or online, but again, it's different for everybody. Having a familiar person in the interview room during the interview. So I made this little joke because there was loads of young adults, teenagers like that, and I could see a few kids and teenagers there as well. So if you want my advice, kids, if you think it's very embarrassing to have a parent of your room, if you want support, trust me, it's not. I've been there and it's not embarrassing. So it's definitely important to have someone in the room, but also, as well as a parent, there's a support worker, there's a carer, just anyone you feel comfortable with is what just really good is for you. And then also, another point to make out is working environments. This is a topic that I really, really feel that is close to my heart, that one, because I have been in very, very similar working environments, and there are loads of places with work environments that can be really agitating, stressful, or anything else in between, really. So you've got things, for example, if you see around you in the auditorium, bright lights, loud noises, bright colours, there's going to be so many things in the workplace, and there are people who will find very, very uncomfortable with that. So with the first point I make, the reasonable adjustments that an employer can actually make is to dim that down, bright lights, and having a room where it is less noisy, so have it like a space to have a quiet room, as an example. Clear goals and giving positive feedback, and this is something that I have experienced a lot, and this is a really good example for anyone who wants to actually give feedback or set goals either termly, like you will have in a school term, yearly or monthly, just to build up the confidence. Good communication skills. This is something that I really find really interesting. So as an example, and this is something that really happened to me, as an example, someone said to me, can you do the recycling? What do you mean? What do you mean recycling? Where does it go? What am I supposed to do? Can you show me? And that's the information I want from an employee. So rather than actually giving a simple command, that's what I like to call it, showing an employee the scenery a few times or locating them to know where to go is absolutely important. Working alongside people who have an understanding the barriers that can exist in social interaction. Trained employees will be extra helpful. A caring and supportive mentor will be great, and I have gone into detail with that before, so that's where training should really come in, as it's important. Giving easy explanations, slow your words down and break into sentences, and this is something that can be very important. I know someone who has like short sentences, but she can only say it in 3 words, so that is a really good example to use and to help with, even if communication difficulties or any other type of difficulties are there. These are really important. So that brings on to the next point, and if there is anyone who's representing an organisation, and I know Brain in Hand is one of them, hello to you, Brain in Hand, and we've got other members as well. So like Brain in Hand, why should organisations hire autistic adults? And these are 3 points. Not all of us are the same, but we all have unique talents. So that is autistic adults. And some of the talents that we have are high levels of concentration, an excellent memory, being able to follow structured projects, pay attention to detail, creativity, and last but not least, pragmatic thinking, e.g. managing situations in a practical way. If there's a problem, how do we solve it as a team? So basically, in that sense, it's teamwork that is really important. That brings me on to in my opinion, my favourite slide of all time. And I cannot stress this stuff. I feel so proud of that slide, I'm not gonna lie. So, inclusion is marketable. Why is inclusion marketable? And I know no one suggested it, but this is my reasons why. Many people would like to work in an inclusive, fair and diverse workplace. And I know there are so many people who want to do that. Bringing new ideas to the table for employees. So I'm using the video platforms as an alternative to face-to-face conversations in Zoom, like I said before. Companies have a likely chance to include more employees because of good representation. If you have an autistic employee and if you want a good representation for your company, hire an autistic adult. Simple as that. There you go. You are going to give someone a chance to develop their new skills and grow their confidence. And lastly, talents are not being wasted. That's a very important part there. But with that being said, this brings me on to my story. And this is something that I felt like not my talents were wasted, because I don't really feel that way, but also it's just a sense of me being overlooked. And this is something that many autistic adults would have found. So with that, I'm going to be explaining a little bit of the journey of how I got here from where I was up until today. So from 2017 to 2022. So back in 2017, I graduated from a theatrical company called Chicken Shed Theatre, which is based in North London. And during that time, I have learned how to do performance skills, and I performed in 3 shows every year. So we had one at Christmas, one in Easter, one in summer term. And during that time, and as part of my grades, I actually worked with children in children's theatre groups and in homeschool projects as well. So I kind of like knew what I was doing, but I was struggling to find work at the time, and I was hoping to go to the entertainment industry, become a famous actress. Sadly, it didn't happen, but hopefully will one day. Hopefully the acting gods will be on my side for one day. But during that time, I actually volunteered at my local library and the Girl Guiding Association, which I'm sadly leaving in a few weeks' time, but I've had the most pleasant experience with the Girl Guiding Association and the local library as well. And of course, I have done YouTube and I've done social media, and I've also made jewelry like this little necklace I made for yesterday. But getting an interview wasn't easy. Preparing for it was easy, but trying to get to it was really hard, especially knowing how to present yourself, how to market yourself. And I had a few terrible experiences after I went to Chicken Shed Theatre, but there was one horrible comment, which I won't actually say the name just because of confidential reasons, but one comment someone said to me, they said to me, "We will never employ someone like you." Yeah, I know, it did hurt, didn't it? It's disgusting, and it did put me off work for finding for 6 months. But eventually my luck changed, where I tried for an interview at the Making of Harry Potter studios. Yeah, I did went for it, but they were so good with hiring autistic employees, and there were 2 job occupations that they gave us. One was working at front of house, and the other was being a tour guide. So if you have been to the Making of Harry Potter, then you'll know that there will be lots of tour guides showing you all the different things. And I decided that I wanted to be a tour guide because I love history, I love Harry Potter, so I decided to give myself a chance. But what I found was that when you are going to employ for Harry Potter, you have to do 2 things. One is to go through an audition, and then one, the actual interview itself. And to do this, I found that for a script for your audition, which had to last about 40 seconds, what you had to do was you either had to choose a written script or make your own 40-second script based on the exhibit of your choice. And the scripted version was the Great Hall. So if you think, oh, the tour guides are actually, oh yeah, they are knowledge and they did research, it's scripted, but I'll make sure I'm not ruining the magic, I'm sorry. But I chose the latter option, and I chose Diagon Alley, so I did all the research and I picked up some like things along the way. Like for example, Diagon Alley was based on the houses described in Charles Dickens' novels and his time as well. So I did that. I passed the audition, but I never got the job. I made it to the interview, but I never got the job. But it was sad, but it did bring me, like, it knocked my confidence up a bit more. So I was really, really glad and grateful for Harry Potter for doing that. So following that, I decided to join the County Council Disability team, and I found that through work experience and employment that they were going to help me assist for, as well as having a talk. I found that part-time hours would be very, very useful to me, and I'll just make sure that if I did have part-time hours, I would just get enough time to relax, just to chill and just do whatever. But unfortunately, a little something called COVID-19 happened. And unfortunately, because of that and lockdown, everyone was put on hold, and I just thought, great, what am I going to do? But I actually used that time to actually look for job occupations myself, and I thought, okay, this is something that will help me build up and up. But unfortunately, with the disability team, I lost like the position and support of that during the pandemic, so I was left on my own basically just to do with things. But I wasn't on my own actually, I really wasn't on my own, because I had my lovely parents to support me as well. So with that being said, I actually had to just had a slow process for the whole entire year. But when lockdown restrictions were released, I found that I wanted to gain more experience, so I joined an organisation called Sunnyside, where I learned about horticulture, animal care, food preparation and customer service, like working in a cafe, and also food and management skills. And I have been with them for a year now, and it's been really, really rewarding, and I enjoy every minute of it. And I had one team member come into the London show last week where he gave a little big cheer, so I thought it was really, really lovely. So that just goes to show how wonderful they are. But then also I found that when the restrictions began to ease, I found that there was a local advertisement for a support job. Well, not really, my mum did, but she recommended it to me really. So this local supported job fair was so helpful, and I never knew that there was one that did exist. But when I looked at it, I thought, okay, so it supports autistic adults and any other kind of or other adults who also have learning disabilities, physical, sensory needs, as well as autism. So they were very open and very inclusive to that. So I thought, okay, why not? Let's just give it a try. But when I had a look at the jobs fair, there were so many stalls, and I found that during that time there were a number of staff shortages, and companies were looking to recruit vacancies, and it was very helpful because it just showed me what kind of employment I went to look for. And when I was looking at the stalls, I tried to think about what my hobbies and interests are with the skills. So like I said before, I was into history, and then I did art, and then I do jewelry, and then YouTube. And then I found that since I went to the jobs fair, I found that one of the jobs that was advertised was at a local sports centre. And although my confidence was low, I enjoyed swimming, and I encouraged myself to apply for a vacancy at the local sports centre, and that was where I had lessons when I was very, very young. And on my application, as well as my CV, I actually said I'm autistic. I'm very happy to call myself that, but also I had to write a cover letter just to market to the local sports centre why it's important for children to actually have confidence brought up from swimming lessons again after the pandemic. So I wrote that, and then surprise, surprise, they actually invited me to do a job interview, which I did. But unfortunately, I had a little bit of an incident, which I like to call the Bridget Jones moment, where I actually caught my coat onto the TV and the Hannah, and it was embarrassing, but we got through it. But then 2 days later, I was offered a position at the local sports centre, and I was shocked. I didn't really expect that at all. And even though I actually went, I did some training in January, and I just went all this far. And then after the training, which included online, and it also included like face-to-face, like a 2-day face-to-face course, I found that I was really comfortable with it, and it gave me the courage to actually push myself a bit more, and I ended up working for a teacher who was teaching children with special educational needs to learn how to swim. So it was really, really special to have that, and it was really wonderful to have that support. But I can understand, and I know how difficult it will be, because supporting children with learning disabilities is quite challenging, but it's also very rewarding as well. And I didn't really know about this until like last week when I last went in, but I found out that I was unexpectedly overlooked, and my boss, who's my teacher, she tried to fight for me to actually get me as a paid employee, but then an incident happened where I actually had to save a child from the water after an epileptic fit, and that encouraged the CEO and the manager to actually not overlook me anymore. So it was really, really rewarding, and I feel really happy about that. And then to bring up to like the final point, my teacher actually said to me, which I feel personally I feel valued for, because she said to me that although we really want you, and even though it's difficult, we want to keep you. And it felt so rewarding, because she didn't really look at me as a label, but really look at me as a person. So I thought that it was so rewarding, and I feel very valued. And what's going to happen next in the future, I really don't know. So at the moment I am practicing and I am going to be training, but I don't know what's going to happen, and I question myself about whether I'm going to get the job or not, or if anything's going to change or happen. I really don't know yet for sure, but I think at the end of the day I just feel happy where I am, and that's all that matters, even though it's the long road. And I'm going to end this by saying a quote from the Jubilee speech. I continue to be inspired by the goodwill shown to me, and hope that the coming days will provide an opportunity to reflect on all that has been achieved. We look forward to the future with confidence and enthusiasm. And I think with that, even though it's a true quote, I'm going to have to leave it there, because I know we're probably running out of time, but I know we've got like 5 minutes for questions. So if you want to ask questions, please feel free to put your hand up and ask questions, and we'll try to answer as many as I can.